Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got our 5 best bets for college basketball here on February 20th. Yesterday, not a great day, all right? We went 2-3. New Mexico just didn't do it for us on the road. They're still going to make a deep run in the tournament. Don't you worry. Shout out to SMU, sweat-free win over Notre Dame, but again, just not our best performance yesterday. It all started bad when Temple couldn't close in regulation on the road in Charlotte. I swear, every time we pick against the Charlotte 49ers, they don't have many wins, but every time we pick against them, they find ways to win. Charlotte and Northwestern are on my most hated list of teams that we just can't get right. We just can't figure it out. I don't know. We're not going to do Northwestern Ohio State today. I think Ohio State wins the game. Don't know if they cover. Before we get into the best bets, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Later today, we'll have our NBA predictions. Yes, the NBA predictions are now back, so make sure to check out that video. Again, this NBA video posted 2 hours after this one, so 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. on the East Coast. And also, make sure to go check out our UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song predictions down in the description down below. And also, make sure to go subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA, the new channel that we've got going on. First video and more MMA dedicated content will go to that channel starting March 2nd, so make sure to check that channel out. Again, subscribe. You can become one of the first 100 subscribers on that channel. Again, make sure to follow or to subscribe in the link down below. All right, on to the first of our 5 college basketball best bets for today. A lot of mid-majors today. There's not many big-time college basketball games today. I think the only power 6 game today is Ohio State Northwestern, if I'm not mistaken. USC's playing Maryland. We're staying away. All right. We're doing all mid-majors today. And we're starting with our first one at 3:30 in Louisville, Kentucky from Knights Hall. We've got the Eastern Kentucky Colonels taking on the Bellarmine Knights. We're rolling with Eastern Kentucky again. We had them the other night playing Lipscomb at home. They were dogs at home. We took them to cover 3.5 points at home. Well, they ended up winning the basketball game outright. This team is absolutely on fire right now. They have won, 9 straight basketball games, as the Colonels are 11-4 in the ASUN, but they started ASUN play this year 1-4. So they've won 10. No, they beat Bellarmine. So yeah, they've won 9 in a row since their 4th loss in the ASUN this year to Stetson. Again, we can rattle off all their victories, but their first win was only by 3 points to Bellarmine, and I think that's kind of where the line is, where it's at right now, with Eastern Kentucky only being a 7.5 point favorite in this game. It's because, again, the first time they played the Knights, they only beat them by 3 points, but that was a much different Eastern Kentucky team back then. Hell, that was one of their first victories in ASUN play all this year, and hell, even after that initial win over Bellarmine, they ended up losing to a very bad Stetson team. So what I'm saying is Eastern Kentucky is a much different squad now. Again, we see them with a huge win over Lipscomb in their last game, now to find themselves as tied in this for second place in the ASUN, only behind North Alabama, who's currently in first place. But this is a really good basketball team right now. A 9-point victory at home against Lipscomb, a 6-point victory the game prior to that against a good Queens University team. They beat Lipscomb on the road as well. They swept Florida Gulf Coast, both at home in East Kentucky and down in Florida as well. And now they're only 7.5 point favorites. I think this is going to play, especially against the Bellarmine team, who is 1-14 in the ASUN, coming off their first victory in their last game against Austin Peay. Again, don't get it twisted. Just because they won 1 game in the ASUN does not mean that they're going to keep compiling up some victories. They beat Austin Peay 94-68. Good win, right? Austin Peay was a team that was 7-7 in the ASUN going into that one. Bellarmine finds a way to win the game, and they blow them out. Ended a 17-game losing streak. Bellarmine wins it 94-68. It was their 4th win all season long, and their 2nd against a Division I basketball team, the only other victory for them being over the Bowling Green Falcons. Their other 2 victories being against Midway and Brescia. Don't know what the hell those schools are. But again, Bellarmine gets 1. What are the odds they get back-to-back? Very low. They're not winning the game. And I think, honestly, they get blown out. Again, I understand why the line is where it's at. It's because the first matchup was so competitive. But this is a much different Eastern Kentucky team now. The Colonels, led by George Kimball III, who averages 18 points a night. Devontae Blanton averages 17 as well. And for Bellarmine, a team that has struggled mightily all season long, they're led by Jack Kraninski, who averages 16.5 points a game. Billy Smith averages 14 a night as well. Karinsky, though, with 23 in that victory over Austin Peay. Again, he's usually their leading scorer. And sure, Bellarmine plays teams really tight, right? They had a 5-point loss at home in overtime to Queens a couple games ago. They went to Jacksonville, only lost by 9. They went to Lipscomb, only lost the game by 7. They've been a team that, again, has been very close all year long to finally getting that first victory in the ASUN, again, ultimately until their win just the other night on Tuesday against Austin, PA. But here's the thing. Eastern Kentucky is white hot right now. They are the hottest team right now in the ASUN, and one of the hottest teams, again, right now in college basketball, just the momentum that they've been building. I think, again, if we had to look at the ASUN tourney right now, I would think it's either Eastern Kentucky or it's North Alabama who are the favorites to win the entire thing. Again, we'll see what happens once we get to the ASUN tournament, but that's just how good of ball Eastern Kentucky's been playing recently. They've been finding ways to win, and they've been beating good teams by good margins as well. Again, a 9-point victory over Lipscomb, that will play, and they've been able to do it on the road as well. I mean, if they're able to go to Florida Gulf Coast too, sure, FGCU has been kind of shaky this season, but if they go to FGCU and win that game by 18 points, who's to say they're not going to beat Bellarmine by more than 8? I'm more than fine here with the Eastern Kentucky Colonels. Just the way that they're playing recently makes me feel, fine with taking them in this spot here on the road. I don't always love taking big favorites on the road, but 7.5 points against the Bellarmine team who has been competitive, but especially we're picking the Eastern Kentucky team that has been really good recently. Again, that 9-game winning streak in the ASUN, it means something. It does. Again, this team should be favorites right now, I think, to win the ASUN tourney, even over North Alabama, who they only did get one time this season. They lost to them by 21 points, but that was on January 4th. Again, this Eastern Kentucky team has been completely different since the first half of the season. I like them to go into Bellarmine and win this basketball game by more than 7 points. We go on now to our second best bet of the video, and we move to a matchup here between UNC Asheville as they go on the road to take on Radford in the Dedman Center here in Radford, Virginia. If I'm not mistaken, we did do the first matchup between UNC Asheville and Radford. I'm pretty sure we did, and we had UNC Asheville. I remember we had UNC Asheville for one of these games. I believe it was this one. They beat Radford by 7 points the first time around. Now they have to go on the road to Radford to play this basketball game, and I'm okay with it. UNC Asheville is an underdog in this spot. They are plus 120 on the road. You can take again the money line, or you can take the spread if you want to, plus 2.5 points. Again, I don't mind either of those, but I do think the Bulldogs ultimately will win this basketball game. They've been one of the elite teams this year in the Big South, and I think a lot of people anticipate, for good reason, High Point being the Big South champions this season. They're obviously going to likely win the regular season championship. We'll see if they can win in the Big South tourney, but hell, right now it's looking like High Point's going to be a team that's likely going to be a 13, maybe possibly a 12, actually probably a 12 in the NCAA tournament, assuming they get there. But UNC Asheville's been a team that's been right with them all year long. Hell, when UNC Asheville went to High Point University, they lost a game in overtime on February 8th by 4 points, 100-104. So this is a good team. This is a good UNC Asheville team who is able to score and able to win big time games as they've done all year long in the Big South Conference. Radford's not horrible, but there's definite tiers in the Big South. It's High Point and UNC Asheville. Those are by far the two best squads. High Point being 12-2, UNC Asheville being 10-2. Then you get Winthrop, who's not bad. They're 9-5, and then it's just everybody else. Radford 6-6, Longwood 6-7, who has shown signs all season long, but those two squads are there. Charleston Southern, the Buccaneers have just kind of been Gardner Webb, and then you get the two bottom squads. Well, Presbyterian's better than South Carolina Upstate, but there are just definite tiers in this conference, and I think UNC Asheville is just a tier ahead of Radford in this spot. For the Highlanders, right? Radford's been splitting games, right? The first matchup, obviously, we talked about with UNC Asheville beating them by 7 points when that game was played in North Carolina. Radford goes on to beat South Carolina Upstate by 10. They lose to High Point by 3. They go on the road, barely take down Longwood. Again, not a horrible Longwood team, and they go to Winthrop in their last game and lose. This is a Highlanders squad that is led by Jarvis Moss, who's averaging 14 points a game. Brandon Macklin averaging 10 for the squad as well. Josiah Harris is their big, averages about 8 points a game and 8 boards a game as well. But for the Bulldogs, again, I think they have the best scorer on the court. Best two scorers on the court, honestly. Jordan March and Toyaz Solomon. Probably the two best guys on the court. Josh Banks, too. Banks has really come on recently as well. I think the Bulldogs, again, are just the overall better team. I really don't care that they're going on the road for this spot. I do expect them to go out here and pick up the victory. And again, it all starts really with Jordan March, again, who's a guy who does average 19 points a night for the Bulldogs. Winning the first game by 7, and just the streak that they've been on, only 2 losses all year long in the Big South. That initial loss to Longwood early in the season, and then obviously the High Point loss on the road. I'm okay here with the Bulldogs. I don't think being on the road makes too much of a difference. I think Marsh, again, is by far the best player on the court, and I do think the UNC Asheville Bulldogs will be able to score here against Radford. Give me UNC Asheville to win the basketball game and cover the 2.5 points, or on the road if you want to take it. I just take the money line plus 120 here for UNC Asheville on the road. We move on to our next game here, going to the CAA. And again, we always talk about the CAA as a conference where it's extremely tough to win on the road. So we're picking a road team here. Give me the Townsend Tigers. I always butcher saying Townsend. It's Townsend. We're taking the Tigers to go on the road to beat the Elon Phoenix. I don't understand the line from the only way where I see this line is, I get the line is because it's a road game in the CAA. But the Tigers are just the better team, and it's not even close. Now, this game does kind of remind me, honestly, it feels like the same exact scenario. Maybe Boise was a little bit better than Elon, but it's literally just what New Mexico and Boise was last night. I think so. But I think there's a difference in the CAA than there is in the Mountain West. Yes, New Mexico's the best team in the CAA, in the Mountain West. Yes, I still think they're going to make a run in the tournament, but we know that Boise, again, was a team that was projected to potentially win that conference this season. They're on the bubble. That's a good basketball team up in Boise, Idaho. There's a difference between that and the Mountain West to this now here in the CAA, where yes, Elon's not horrible, but there's a clear difference. And there, again, Townsend is just the better team, especially even though they're going on the road. I still think they beat Elon. Now, these teams haven't met so far this year. It's their first matchup, but we've seen Elon recently just struggle mightily in so many games. They've lost now, 5 out their last 7. Now, the reason why they're getting this so much respect on the line in this game is because they're coming off a victory at UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington, the Seahawks, are the best team in the CAA. I thought it was impossible for anybody to go into UNC Wilmington and beat them, but hell, Elon just did it for the first time this season, picking up a huge 11-point victory on the road, snapping a 3-game losing streak and losses to the Campbell Fighting Camels, Charleston, North Carolina A&T. They lost to prior to their win at UNC Wilmington, and that was North Carolina A&T's first victory in the CAA this season. They're 1-13 as a whole. So the CAA, again, is just a very odd conference, but I don't think Elon's able to put together back-to-back victories. I don't want to completely go off UNC Wilmington now. I think they're a good team, and I still think they're going to have a chance to win the CAA, but if there was ever a team that's going to be favored to win it over them, it is the Townsend Tigers. Townsend's good. Townsend's a good team. Coming off of 11 straight victories, I believe now in the CAA. They have not lost a game in the conference since their loss at Charleston. They've won, 12 straight games now in the conference, dating back to January 4th. This team has a win on the road at UNC Wilmington. Obviously, Elon now joins Townsend as the only 2 teams to go on the road and actually beat that squad. But I think the Tigers are really good. We haven't gotten a chance to pick a Tigers game so far this season just because, yes, they've been the top dogs in the CAA all year. But again, the Lions have never really liked it. They've always been big favorites against everybody, and now they're only a 1.5-point favorite on the road here against Elon. I think it's a great spot. I think the Tigers do take care of business here. This is a squad that is led by Tyler Tejada, who's averaging 16.5 points a game. Dylan Williamson averages 14. Tejada coming off a 15-point performance against Monmouth the other night. But he's the leader of this squad, obviously. Williamson, and Tark are the leading scorers here for the Tigers. And I don't think just going on the road is going to stop them from beating Elon. I get it. The Phoenix are coming off a victory, and their best victory by far all season at UNC Wilmington. But I do ultimately still think the Tigers win. Again, this is a squad who has lost 1 game in the calendar year of 2025, and that was on the road at Charleston, who honestly, not a horrible squad. I thought about picking them today, but ultimately we stayed away from it. Other than that, though, 13-1 in the CAA. Yes, it looks like the Tigers, regardless of this outcome here, it looks like they're probably going to be the 1 seed going into the CAA tournament, but they still have a matchup on the road at Campbell to come on Saturday. So there's still some big basketball games here for the Tigers down the stretch of regular season play, but I do think they get it here. Again, Elon's not a bad squad, but we've seen them lose so many games. They lost both of their games against Campbell, against Charleston. They did lose both. They lost their second game against Campbell, where we had the Fighting Camels. And again, that loss against North Carolina A&T is so horrible. I get it. They're coming off a win over the UNC Wilmington Seahawks, but that's a fluke. That's all we're putting into that. That is a fluke victory for Elon. They're not going to put back-to-back tremendous victories against the two best teams in the conference. Sure, you can get UNC Wilmington. I don't think you're getting the team that is 13-1 right now in the conference in the Towson Tigers. I just don't think it's possible. Elon led by two main scorers. That's going to be, or three main scorers really, TJ Simpkins, and obviously Nick Dorn as well, who averages 15 points a game. But the better team is Towson. They've been the better basketball team all season long, and just because the game's at Elon doesn't mean they're not going to go out here and get it. I don't think Elon gets back-to-back victories against the best teams in the conference, and I don't think Towson drops their second game this year in CAA play. Even though they're going on the road, we just saw North Carolina A&T go to Elon and win. So I like Towson here. Give me the Tigers to win the game on the road. You can take the cover, but just take the money line minus 130. I'm okay with it for the Towson Tigers. All right, we move now to the Big Sky. We've got a matchup here between the Portland State Vikings and the Idaho State Bengals. And we like Portland State here. Now, we don't talk about the Big Sky much. It's not one of those conferences we usually go to, honestly. I mean, the West Coast conferences that we seem to gravitate towards are, the Big West and the West Coast Conference, if we're not talking, obviously, about Power 4 basketball, Power 6 basketball. But we are going to look a little bit here in the Big Sky, and we're going to take Portland State here on the road. They are underdogs in this spot. Portland State are plus 105, or they're getting 1.5 points on the road as well, and I don't mind it. This is the second matchup between these two teams, and Portland State, the first time around here against Idaho State, beat that team 76-59. Now, Portland State hasn't been the best since that victory, as they lost to conference-leading Montana, ended up losing to Montana State after that, beat Idaho on the road, lost at Eastern Washington, and then back-to-back victories at home against Northern Arizona and Northern Colorado. So they're not the best road team. They're just not, right? The last road game that Portland State has won was that victory against Idaho, but then prior to that, you got to go to a road win at Northern Arizona. Again, just to symbolize things, they're not the best road squad, but that first matchup and that first beatdown of Idaho State makes me feel confident in the fact that they can go on the road and win again, and I like them here at plus money. For Idaho State, this is a squad since, again, that initial loss to Portland State, beat Eastern Washington at home, beat Idaho at home, lost to Northern Colorado at home, lost to Weber State beat Weber State on the road, and back-to-back losses going into this one against both the Montana teams, losing at Montana and then at Montana State as well. 13 and 5-point losses respectively in those regards. Their leading scorer and just all-around best player is Dylan Darling. He does a lot for this basketball team. Darling averages around 35 minutes a night. He scores about 20 a night as well, and 6 assists. The sophomore out of Spokane, Washington, again, is the guy for the Idaho State Bengals, and he's accompanied by Jake O'Neal, who's one of their other guards, who averages 13 and 10. Isaiah Griffin will average 11 points tonight as well. But the Bengals have just been very mediocre this year in the Big Sky. They're a team that is 6 and 7 in the conference. Yes, Portland State's not much better at 8 and 5, but the Vikings have all around been the better basketball team this season. Again, the Bengals coming off back-to-back losses and losing 3 out their last 4. But when we look at that first matchup, again, a victory for Portland State, who we can talk about their players some. Jalen Henderson's their best guy, but you get Henderson, Terry Miller, Isaiah Johnson, and Kyant Millers, who are all their players who average more than 10 points a night. But that initial matchup, again, in Portland, it was a game where Portland State was a minus 130 favorite. Kind of similar line to this. Obviously, they were favorites in that first game, but Jalen Henderson went crazy in that one. Henderson, again, the leading scorer for Portland State as a whole this season, and their point guard dominated that matchup against the Bengals' best player, obviously, in Isaiah Griffin. I mean, both these guys played 30-plus minutes in this game. Jalen Henderson scored 31 points, went 12 for 18, shooting 3 for 6 from beyond the arc. The point guard on the other side of the ball, obviously, Dylan Darling, goes 4 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from beyond the arc, and only scores 11 points. I mean, that's the big matchup in this game. And Jalen Henderson obviously dominated the matchup in that first again game against Portland State and Idaho State. And I think he does the same exact thing. Again, the Bengals just have not been that impressive of a squad this season. Hell, they lost at the Nest earlier this year at Sacramento State, who has been god-awful and been by far the worst team in the Big Sky all season long. Sure, they're coming off a win a couple games ago against Weber, but again, Weber State, other than Sacramento State, is the other really bad team in the Big Sky. Hell, when we look at the bottom two they're playing today, it's Weber State and it's Sacramento State. And I'm not going to try to sell you on the fact that Portland State is the best team. They're not. Again, they are just another mediocre. I'd say they're above mediocre in the Big Sky, right? Idaho State record under 500. The Vikings are 8-5. I would say again, Portland State is just by far the better basketball team, and that was again apparent in the first matchup. Back-to-back wins going into this one. Yes, they're both in Portland. A 58-46 victory at home against Northern Arizona. You know, a win's a win, and then an 82-71 victory over Northern Colorado. Those are solid victories for the Vikings. Their only losses in the conference, again, are road spots, which does make me a little bit concerned about this game, but they're road spots against decent teams. And yes, Portland State did lose the Nest earlier this year as well, obviously being at Sac State, but that was their first game in Big Sky play this year. This team has evolved, a lot since that initial loss. Their only road wins this season are Northern Arizona, and that's it. That's their only road win. I think they are going to get number 2 here. Again, I think it's just a combination of how much they dominated that first matchup. That was Jalen Henderson's by far best performance of the season. Again, Henderson with 31 points. That's his season high. I think, again, that matchup with him and Dylan Darling is going to be the story of this game. If there is a story of this one, it is going to be the matchup of the point guards. And I think the better point guard does play for Portland State. This is a squad who is 16-10 this season. Idaho State is 11-13. Just the team that's been playing better basketball all year long is Portland State. Idaho State, again, coming off back-to-back losses, sure, against really good teams and, potentially two of the best squads in the Big Sky. Northern Colorado's there too, but I think Portland State's, again, just the better basketball team. The Northern Colorado victory is a good win. Northern Colorado right now, the second best team in the Big Sky, and that's the game Portland State is coming off of. I think Jalen Henderson, again, wins the matchup against Darling, and I think Portland State wins this game on the road at Idaho State. Give me the Vikings to beat the Bengals. You get them at plus money. You could take the spread. It's 1.5 plus 1.5. Just take the money line plus 105 for the Portland State Vikings on the road up in Idaho. And going to our final best bet of the video, we go to UC Irvine for the Anteaters at home here against CSUN, the Cal State Northridge Matadors. We're going with UC Irvine. Now, this Irvine team has been, I'm not going to say as hot as they once were, and obviously we're just saying that basically because of a close competitive game that they won against UC Santa Barbara, and then a game that they lost at Irvine to UC San Diego. But Irvine, in their last victory at Hawaii, proved that they're still elite. I think so. And honestly, we predicted that game fairly close in terms of not just obviously the winner and the spread. We had a UCI to win and cover, but the final score too. I said Irvine was going to win the game. They were going to score in the mid-60s and they were going to hold Hawaii to the 40s, and the final score was 66-49. I think Irvine's still really good. Now, we will see what we get in the Big West tournament. I think UC Irvine, or I think UC San Diego has got a better non-conference resume, obviously, with their victory over Utah State. So if the Big West is going to get 2 bids into the NCAA tournament, I think, again, for the Big West's sake and the Big West's sake to try to get 2 teams in, it's probably better if UC Irvine wins the Big West tourney, because there is a chance UC San Diego can still get into the tournament without winning the Big West. I don't think Irvine can do the same, if I'm being honest. I don't think their resume is as good. Their loss to Duquesne on the road and their loss at Corvallis to Oregon State, they don't have an elite win outside of the Big West. They don't. They've got good wins against mid-major squads like UNI on the road. Kent State isn't a horrible team, right? They've beat some good squads, but not an elite victory like UC San Diego got at Utah. In Logan, I think, against Utah State, right? UC Irvine, though, again, back-to-back victories over Santa Barbara and Hawaii. They have 2 losses in the Big West all year long. One of those come on the road against UC Riverside, and then that game, of course, they lost against UC San Diego. This is a better team, though. They're better than CSUN. They beat CSUN earlier in the year. They went to Northridge and won the game by 10 points, 77-67. And for CSUN, another good team in the Big West, right? I mean, it's Irvine and San Diego. They split the season series. Irvine went to San Diego and won, and then UCSD went to UCI and won. So by far the 2 best teams in the conference. I personally think number 3 is that cesspool known as UC Riverside. I do think Riverside is better than CSUN. They've only played once this season. They will play again in the cesspool in early March, but Riverside did beat Northridge the first time around. CSUN, I think right now does have a better record in the Big West, but I think we all think UCR is the better basketball team with Burrington, Hargis, and the guys over there. But CSUN is probably that 4th best team in the conference, better than teams like UC Davis, who has kind of turned around their season. UC Santa Barbara is always competitive, and then you get teams like Hawaii, Cal State Bakersfield, Cal Poly, and then you get just the absolute trash. We're talking about Long Beach State, who's just Devin Askew, and then obviously at the bottom at 1-14, Cal State Fullerton. But the Matadors are led by Marcus Adams Jr. He's a player who averages 16 points a game. Scotty Washington averages 15 16, and Keontae Jones averages 13 points as well, but UCI is just the better team. And Bent Leishton is, of course, the best player on the court. He is a defensive unit for UCI. Well, honestly, on both sides of the ball, too. I mean, everything revolves around Leishton. He's a guy who averages 16 and 9 a game, but if you watch UC Irvine, everything, again, is about him. No matter if that's how the Anteaters played or just their opponents, I mean, it's very rare that you see Leishton have the ball in his hands and he's just one-on-one. I mean, whoever he's against, they usually send doubles against the guy because, again, that's just how much of a factor he is for the Anteaters. But where UCI will kill you is with the defense. They're by far the best team, best defensive team in the Big West. I always look back to their win. I get it's a non-conference victory, but a win on the road at Northern Iowa, it might have been a tournament game, but still, they win the game 51-39. Again, UNI is not bad, and I get it, Irvine only scored 51 points, but that's how they win games. They grind them out and win low-scoring affairs. Well, they beat Northern Iowa 51-39. It's a great defensive unit. Again, everything is revolving around Leishton, but the rest of the team, Devin Tillis is not a bad basketball player, obviously. Hit the game winner against UC Santa Barbara. Miles Che averages 13 points a game. Justin Hahn is a good guard for this team, too. That starting unit is really solid for Irvine, but again, it is all about Bent Leishton, their center, who, again, can make that case to potentially being the best player in the Big West. Obviously, again, they're Burrington Hargress and Tate Jones, obviously, from UC San Diego, can make that case too. But Irvine, again, a 12-2 team this year in the Big West, and we expect them to win this game against Cal State Northridge, and we expect them to cover this line as well. Irvine on the money line, minus 280 favorite. CSUN coming back at you at plus 230, but we are taking Irvine to cover the 6.5 points. I think they get it done. I know they've been playing closer games as the season has gone on, but still 6.5 points for as many close games as they've been playing at home. They've covered this line in every single game they've played, other than the Santa Barbara win, where again they win with the game winner from Tillis. And then the loss, obviously, to UC San Diego, right? You look at their wins at home this season. UC Riverside, they beat them 81-57. That's a good cesspool team. Cal State Fullerton, they beat by 20, whatever. But Cal State Fullerton sucks. Cal Poly, not very good. They beat them by 32. Hawaii, that victory, they beat them 71-55. That covers. Obviously, the win over UC Davis at the time, not that impressive of a victory. Now, the Aggies have been playing much better ball since that matchup against Irvine, but the Anteaters win that game 73-66. Again, that covers the 6.5 points we need. And even the win on the road at Hawaii, they shut down that Hawaii offense, and obviously they win the game. Again, the thing with CSUN is, are they going to be able to score? Because everyone, again, if you are able to effectively attack Irvine on that side of the ball, then you will obviously have a chance to win. But so many teams struggle with, and really the bottom half of the Big West really struggles with scoring against Irvine. Hell, that's what happened to San Diego, UC San Diego, the first time they played Irvine, again, at San Diego. Again, the Matadors have scores, Adams, Washington, Jones, but they only scored 67 points the first time around against Irvine. I'd expect that number to come down in this game. I would expect CSUN to score maybe high 50s, low 60s, probably high 50s, honestly, and they haven't done that in a very long time. I understand that. That's just the style of game Irvine plays, and I think this game will be kind of reminiscent of that Cal State Northridge game when they went to UC San Diego. They lost that game 79-54. That's the last time, again, CSUN scored within the 50s. I'd expect something like that here tonight, because that's just a different style of ball that you play against teams like Irvine and against UC San Diego as well. Now, Northridge, again, on a 5-game winning streak, going to UC Santa Barbara and winning, that's impressive. Beating Bakersfield, Fullerton, Long Beach State, Cal Poly in 4 straight games after that. Now, again, those teams aren't the most impressive, but wins are wins, and they're scoring 80 points in all 4 of those games. Again, though, guys, there's a massive difference playing those teams and then going and playing a team like UC Irvine. Irvine, again, is a team that should be on the bubble right now if they don't obviously win the Big West tourney. I think if everything ended right now, everything goes the way we expect it to go for college basketball, I guess in the last 4 or 5-ish games that every team's playing in the regular season, I'd expect UCI to just miss the tournament if they don't win the Big West. But again, I still think they win the conference, and I think UC San Diego should get in with an at-large spot, but we'll see, obviously. I think Irvine's good. I obviously have been talking about the Anteaters all season long. I think Bent Leishton obviously is a difference maker on the court. I like the Anteaters to win this game at home and cover the 6.5 points as well. Irvine's a tough team to go beat on the road. Again, the only team to do it all year long is UC San Diego, and we know how good that team is at the same time, right? So I think Irvine gets this one. I think CSUN's in a rough spot on Saturday, too. They got to go to Davis to play the Aggies. I don't know. I think Davis might get them. We'll see. We might feature that in our 10 best bets video on Saturday. But regardless, we like the UC Irvine Anteaters to win at home and cover the 6.5 points here against Cal State Northridge to close the night. Be Bent Leishton and the guys over at UCI. I. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on February 20th. If you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets, and make sure to join us in a couple hours for our NBA predictions as well. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.